One of the things that makes me the most angry is that there are a whole bunch of predators that are lying to old people in order to get a hold of their money. I just see red when I think about that. I mean, it's despicable to do that to anyone, but to take advantage of a lonely, fearful older person who necessarily has to trust other people a lot, well, that just burns me. In 1984, George Orwell offers an action that falls into the same category, the act of throwing sulfuric acid into a child's face. These are objectively evil, don't you think? And then there's this guy that posts this on social media. The fact of the matter is that there is no such phenomenon as a single truth that is applicable to all human beings. Such a notion is a fallacy, perhaps one of the greatest fallacies of all time. Rather, within each of us, we have values, beliefs, and perceptions that we hold to be true for ourselves. So when we share, speak the truth, we communicate a point of view that aligns or stems from our truth, our honest opinion. So the truth, like any other human perception, varies from individual to individual. This is where many have ended up in our particular world, in our particular time. Most of the people who are alive or have ever lived will not agree with this. His view is a product of a series of ideas that are unique to Western civilization. To totally oversimplify how we got here, we think this way because we first got rid of God in favor of reason. And then we got rid of reason because of the complete and total mess that was the 20th century. We lost faith in universals, like the good, the true, and the beautiful. It was necessary for these things to move somewhere, so they moved here, into our own individual minds. It took some practice, a few generations, but we've come to accept this as a given, an obviously true description of reality. We accept it so completely that we can make a statement like this and be completely blind to the doublethink that is behind this statement. This one. The fact of the matter is that there is no such phenomenon as a single truth that is applicable to all human beings. I don't think you can make a statement any more absolute than that. Is that a single truth that is applicable to all human beings? And this reminds me that I should make a video about what a fallacy is. Please like and subscribe. The position of our friend from the internet is the same position as that of the party in George Orwell's 1984. Truth is in the individual mind. So if you can control the mind, you can control all truth. But that's the subject of another video. In The Abolition of Man, C.S. Lewis argues against subjectivism, the idea that everything is up to the individual, that there is no such thing as an objective, transcendent, universal moral law, that there is no such thing as objective reality. Lewis says that there is such a thing, and he calls it the TAO. This is a Chinese term which refers to the fundamental principle that underlies and unifies the natural order. However, Lewis adapts the term to convey a broader and more objective moral meaning. In the appendix of The Abolition of Man, C.S. Lewis offers some illustrations of the TAO, examples from different cultures and traditions to show that despite differences in language, culture, and religious traditions, there is a commonality in moral values and principles that has been recognized throughout human history. I will give you a summary of these laws that Lewis says constitute the TAO. First, there are the laws of general beneficence. This category encompasses both the do's and do-nots. Don't harm others or kill people. Oppression is bad. So is slander and bearing false witness. And stealing stuff that belongs to other people. Among other things, don't be one of those people that makes a robot leave a message on my phone, telling me that bad things are going to happen to my account unless I press the number 1. The positive aspects of the laws of general beneficence are promoting the well-being of society, being kind, enriching the lives of others, and practicing goodwill. You know, being nice to your neighbors, and stepping up when people are in crisis, like bringing over a meal, and volunteering, and picking up your own garbage, and recycling. These things, according to C.S. Lewis, are objective and universal attitudes and behaviors. The first actions are inherently evil, and these last ones are inherently good. We don't get to personally decide what's right and what's wrong. The laws of special beneficence emphasize social and family duties. We should care for our parents when they're old, and we need to take care of our children when they're young. Yes, there are people who do harm children, and there are people who scam old people for their money. But the point is that every human being agrees that people ought not to prey on the vulnerable. Then there are duties to parents, elders, and ancestors. This law is about honoring those who have come before. Our parents, yes, but also showing reverence for all elders, and respecting one's lineage. In the West, we've stepped out of this respect for ancestors. We failed to appreciate and respect those who have come before, and in doing so, we are deviating from the Tao. We should think more about this. This is what the Tao is. It's a standard by which to evaluate ourselves and our culture. There's the law of justice. This law covers sexual justice, honesty, and fairness in court. So we are talking about fidelity in relationships, dealing with people honestly and truthfully. Not just being interested in our own fair treatment, but seeking the fair treatment of others as well. The law of good faith and veracity. There is a universal idea that honesty is a good thing, and lying is a bad thing. We learned that even before kindergarten. Then there's the law of mercy. This law advocates for compassion and assistance to the poor, the sick, and the prisoner. This one's all about the ethical treatment of others, no matter who they are. We need to be empathetic and kind. This one has gotten a lot more difficult with the internet. We see pretty much non-stop all the human tragedy that's going on in every part of the world. It's natural for us to want to do something, but it's impossible for us to do something for everybody, so we feel guilty. Eventually, to avoid the guilt, you have to turn yourself off to the tragedy, just to be able to live with yourself. And when we do that, we become less than human. But what else can we do? And the law of magnanimity. This one's about courage. There seems to be something in all humanity that says courage is good, and to be a coward is not good. Our courage leads us to do all of the above, because it takes courage to defend the vulnerable, and to stand up against injustice. It takes courage to do the right thing. One of the reasons we in our culture don't like this list of universal laws is because we suffer from a radical individualism and we are obsessed with our personal freedom. A universal principle or indeed objective reality is too much of a straitjacket. Lewis argues that the denial or rejection of the Tao can result in what he describes as the abolition of man. Here's his argument. If there are no universal moral standards to guide us, then we will choose for ourselves. And when we choose for ourselves, we can't use a universal reason to guide us. And if our reason isn't guiding us, then our impulses and urges will do so. Some of these impulses and urges will be at times in line with the Tao. But there's nothing that requires this to be so. We will only do a good thing because we feel like doing it. Our feelings, or our gut instinct, or personal self-interest, or pleasure, or happiness, or fulfillment, or mood, or desire will be our guide. Our impulses and urges. Sorry, Jiminy. And what do we call an organism that follows its impulses and urges? A toddler? A teenager? An animal. That's fine. That's what they're made to do. An animal follows its impulses and urges. If that's what we do, we are no longer human. And that, in simple terms, is why the loss of the Tao leads to the loss of our humanity, the abolition of man. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.